I was in pitch black darkness, though I was under a light given off by a lamp that hung high above my head. I could hear the cries of Knuckles and Tails nearby. They were saying stuff like, "Help us," and "Why did you give us to him?" and "Run away before he gets you too." The cries died out as I then heard Sonic laugh. His laugh, it sounded a lot like the distorted Kefka laugh. "You're a lot of fun to play with, kid, just like your friend Kyle," though he didn't last long. I was scared and looking around for the source of the voice. "Won't be long now before you join him and all my other friends." I saw him walking toward me, flickering in and out in several directions. "You can't run, kid. You're in my world now, just like the others." When he grabbed me and I saw his bleeding black and red eyes, grinning face, I woke up with a fright. After a couple of hours, I decided to continue playing the game. I don't know why, but I had to know. I had to figure out why this was happening. So I turned on the computer, turned on the game, and selected Robotnik next. I still thought that was wacky, playing as Robotnik, but anyway. The level title appeared again, and this time it said period, 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 which I found really freaky. This time, I was in some kind of hallway. Didn't really look like it was from any of the classic Sonic games, though it had a pixelated style. The floor was shiny and checkered. The walls were a dark grayish purple with animated candlelights and a few dark blood stains here and there. There's a dark red curtain hanging above on the top part of the screen. Every 12 seconds or so, that red curtain sways very slowly. But whenever you're playing the game, you can barely see it move. The music was oddly pleasant. A piano playing a rather sad yet peaceful song. But I knew better. This was the song that played in Hill Act 1. Only it wasn't in reverse. Robotnik didn't look entirely nervous like Tails and Knuckles did. But he did have a suspicious look on his face as if he was just a bit paranoid. He did a little animation when I just left him standing. He turned his head to the left and then to the right, at least twice, and then looks at me, as if he has no idea where he was or what was going on. Even though I was scared out of my mind about what was going to happen, I had Robotnik continue onward. He did his usual running animation. You know, you've beaten him at the end of the classic Sonic game, you chase him. We continued going through the hallway. Then I stopped at a long flight of stairs leading downward. Now I was nervous. Even Robotnik seemed unsure of himself, though I pressed onward. As I led Robotnik down the stairs, I noticed that the walls have gotten darker and more reddish. The red torches are now an eerie blue. Then we landed onto another hallway. This was longer than the last one, or at least it felt like it. And then we headed down another flight of stairs down. This one was much longer, took at least 1 full minute. And then, heard that horrid Kefka laugh again, and then the music slowly faded, until it was quiet. As it did, the walls turned more dark red. The torches were a black flame now. When Robotnik landed out of the third hallway, I noticed he now looked really creeped out. Though he tried to hide it, I couldn't blame him. I was scared too. Suddenly, Sonic popped right in front of Robotnik the same way he did Knuckles, and then red static. The red static lasted for about 15 seconds. And then showed me a most unpleasant image. The image showed a hyper-realistic photo of Sonic standing in the darkness where you can only see his face, while his head and torso fade into black. And when I say hyper-realistic, I mean like he looks so real you could actually see the lines in his blue fur. So if you could actually feel the fur if you touched the screen. His face. Oh God. He had the most horrifying smile I've ever seen. And that's saying something considering I saw that image at the start of the game. His eyes are wide and black and once again crying blood, which also looked hyper-realistic. And there are 2 small, glowing red dots, and those black eyes staring right at me as if staring into my mind. His grin was wide and demonic. He literally stretched the size of his face like a Cheshire cat, except Sonic had fangs. Very sharp fangs. Much like the werewolf's teeth, except more vicious looking, somewhat yellowish, and from the look of it, He had stains of blood and small bits of flesh on his lips and fangs as if he ate some animal. I stared at that gruesome image for a good 30 seconds, never taking my eyes off it. I felt as if he was actually looking at me, smiling at me. That face. It just took 10 seconds for it to etch itself into my brain for good. Then, the screen flickered, with static again 3 times. On the 3rd time, I heard the Kefka laugh, except this time, it sounded distorted, demonic even. I went back to the image again, except this time there was text again, though it was messed up. It was pretty much one of the most horrifying things I had looked at since I had this game. I am God. It was when I read that message while looking at Sonic when it hit me. I realized right there and then, this Sonic was a monster. Pure, evil, sadistic, all-powerful, nightmarish, demented monster. And all of his victims, including Tails, Knuckles, Robotnik, and possibly Kyle, are just his little toys. The game is the very gateway into his chaotic, nightmarish world, and the very hell his victims are trapped in. Suddenly, in an actual split second, I screamed. I saw Sonic lunge the screen, screeching loudly with his mouth wide open to an unnatural length, revealing nothing but a literally spiraling abyss of pure darkness before the red static came again. This time much louder and distorted, so loud that I hurt my ears. I yelled and grabbed my ears as the red static screeched for a good 7 seconds. Then, it stopped, showed nothing but black screen. As I sat there, staring at the black screen, one last text came up. Ready for round 2, Tom? The Kefka laugh, now sounding more clear as if Sonic was right behind me, played again 3 times as I looked at that text in shock and confusion. Then, I got booted back to the main menu, and this time, the 3rd save file had TV image of Robotnik, the same tormented state as Tails and Knuckles. Robotnik's skin turned a dull gray. His mustache drooped and had blackened. His glasses broke, and blood is coming from them. He had a mere dead-like expression on his face. I looked at Tails, Knuckles, and Robotnik a bit, and I cried a bit. I pitied them for the agony they're going through. They are forever trapped within that game, forever tormented by that horrid hedgehog, and always will be. Then, the computer shut itself off. I couldn't turn it back on no matter what I did. I sat there for maybe 25 seconds, horrified by what had just happened. Sonic is the very embodiment of evil. He tortures people who play his game in more ways than one. And then, when he gets bored, he drags you into the game. Literally drags you to hell, where he could play with you always, as his toy. I can't get the game out of my computer. I think it's stuck in there. But at least I managed to turn it back on now. After I sat there for 25 seconds, I heard a voice right behind me. Like a whisper. Try to keep this interesting for me, Tom. I turned around to see where the voice came from. And what I saw made me scream. Sitting on my bed, staring right at me, was a Sonic plushie, smiling with bloodstains under its eyes.